The first time I heard his voice, I was halfway through a microwaved burrito and a losing streak. My headset crackled, the Discord notification chimed, and a new name lit up in the voice channel. Riley. He jumped into our team chat with the wrong mic input selected, so the first thing I actually heard was a muffled curse and the clatter of keys. "Hold up," he said, his voice distant and echoey. "My microphone decided to roleplay as a toaster. Give me a sec." I laughed with my mouth full, which is never flattering. "It's okay, man," I said. "You're still doing better than our healer." "Hey," our healer protested faintly. Someone in the channel said, "Riley's cracked, you're going to love him." And a second later, his audio snapped into focus. "Testing," he said again, closer this time. Warm, a little rough around the edges. "Can you hear me now? Or do I still sound like I'm trapped in a fridge? You know that weird little jolt when a voice hits you just right? It was like that. My skin prickled like I'd walked into AC after being outside in the heat too long." "You sound good," I said, adjusting my headset like that would fix whatever was happening inside my chest. "I'm Alex." "Nice to meet you, Alex," he said. "Let's go lose some games together." We did, spectacularly. The details matter less than the pattern. I was 27, allegedly straight, and spending too many evenings hunched over a keyboard in my one-bedroom apartment. I had a job in IT that paid the bills and drained my soul, an ex-girlfriend I still followed on Instagram out of habit, and a small rotation of friends I saw for beers and jokes about how none of us could afford a house. The one thing that reliably made me feel engaged, I guess, was gaming. Not the games themselves exactly, but the people, the banter on voice chat, the sense that, scattered across the world, other tired humans were logging on with the same need, to be somewhere we knew the rules. So when a friend invited me into a new Discord server for a co-op game, I joined. I wasn't expecting anything more than a few good matches, and another muted tab on my browser. Then there was Riley. He was easy in a way that made other people relax. Quick jokes, but never cruel. He asked questions. "Where are you guys from? How long you been playing?" And actually listened to the answers. He called everyone dude or friend, and somehow made both sound like an upgrade from whatever you'd been 5 minutes ago. And he was good. Annoyingly good. While the rest of us flailed around getting used to the mechanics, he slipped into the game like he'd been born there, talking us through strategies without sounding like a know-it-all. "Okay, Alex," he said at one point, "we're going to try something slightly insane. I'm going to draw their fire, you're going to swing around the flank like you're in an action movie, and we'll pretend this was all on purpose." "Copy that," I said, fingers trembling a little on my mouse. We pulled it off. Barely. My character's health bar was a crime scene by the end, but we won the encounter, all of us yelling over each other in a tangle of laughs and curses. "Dude, Alex, that flank was sick," Riley said, his voice lighting up in my ears. "You hiding pro gamer skills from us?" I could feel heat crawl up my neck, which was ridiculous. No one could see me. "Beginner's luck," I said. "You did all the real work." "We make a good team," he replied casual, like he wasn't dropping phrases that would echo in my head later when I was lying in the dark staring at the ceiling. We started DMing after that. At first it was practical stuff. "You on tonight? We need one more for the raid." But somewhere along the way, logistics turned into memes, then into random thoughts throughout the day. A picture of his cat draped over his keyboard, a screenshot of a bug where his character was halfway inside a wall, a photo of a particularly cursed hot dog he'd found at a gas station. When my phone lit up and it was his name, I found myself smiling before I'd even opened the app. I told myself it was just that new friend glow. I liked having people, especially people who made the hours feel less heavy. That's all it was. Then one night, it was just the two of us in the channel. It was a Tuesday, the kind of day that leaves your brain feeling like left-out pasta. Everyone else had logged off early. I should have too. I had work in the morning. Instead, I found myself queuing up another mission as Riley's little green circle glowed beside his username. "Tired?" he asked, noticing the yawn I tried to swallow. "Always," I said. "But I'm good. You?" "Same," he said. I had to smile through a 3-hour meeting about synergy. My soul left my body somewhere around the second PowerPoint transition. I laughed, the sound a little too loud in my small dark apartment. Why do we do this to ourselves? I muttered, more to myself than to him. Because capitalism, he replied without missing a beat. And because health insurance is hard to get if your job title is guy who is good at video games. We played. We talked. At some point, the game faded into the background and the conversation took over. He told me about his city, bigger than mine, more expensive, full of coffee shops and buskers, and a river that looked great in photos and smelled questionable up close. I told him about my childhood in the suburbs, the way every house on my street looked like it had been copy-pasted with minor variations in siding. We swapped stories about exes, mine all women, his a mix. That guy was a nightmare, he said at one point, describing an ex-boyfriend who'd turned jealousy into an art form. He'd get mad if I liked someone's tweet. It was exhausting. I laughed, then paused. Wait, I said. You said guy? Yeah, he said slowly. That okay? Yeah, I said too quickly. Yeah, of course, I just didn't know you were, bisexual, he supplied, amused. Yeah, that. Is that going to make things weird? He asked. Because, if this is the part where you tell me you're not comfortable, that's fine. I can go back to being your mysterious, genderless internet friend. No, I said. I mean, it's not weird, it's cool. You're cool. I don't know why I'm being awkward. I've had queer friends before, I laughed at myself. I'm tired. My social skills are on dial-up. He chuckled, a low, warm sound. For the record, he said, I appreciate you not suddenly turning into a PSA about acceptance. Some people hear bi and start treating me like I'm a walking after-school special. I'll save that for when you tell me you don't like dogs, I said. Then we'll have a problem. Terrifying, he replied. After we logged off, I lay in bed staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars my teenage self had stuck to the ceiling and never taken down. Bisexual. I thought about the way my heart did a weird little hop when his icon lit up, the way I replayed his jokes in my head during the day, the way I'd caught myself wondering, a little too often, what he looked like off camera. You're just impressed, I told myself. You liked women like that too. That fluttery, nervous crush feeling. With women. The voice in my head countered, quietly, so what's the difference now? I could have ignored it. Instead, I reached for my phone and did something shamefully cliché. I typed, can I be bi if I've only ever dated women into Google? The internet, in its infinite chaos, offered me blog posts, advice columns, comics, and a quiz I refused to click. Over and over, in different words, it said the same thing. Attraction counts, even if you haven't acted on it. I locked my phone and pressed it to my chest. Utai, great, I muttered in the dark. Love that for me. Over the next few weeks, my brain became a two-player game of denial versus curiosity. Denial pointed at my dating history. Curiosity pointed at the way my pulse jumped when Riley laughed. Denial said, you just really like your friend. Curiosity said, you also want to know what his hand would feel like on the back of your neck. In the middle of all this internal chaos, Riley dropped a bomb into our chat. Hey, he said one night, midway through a mission. Do you ever go to conventions? Like the big gaming ones? I asked. Not really. I always mean to, and then forget to be a person who does things. He laughed. Same, but my friend has a spare pass to Arcadia Con in July. It's only a few hours from you, I think. I was thinking of going. My heart forgot how to beat like a normal organ, and instead did interpretive dance behind my ribs. Oh yeah, I said, aiming for casual and landing somewhere in the vicinity of strangled. Yeah, he said. Would be cool to actually meet. No pressure, obviously. You could come for just one day. We could wander around, talk about how weird it is to see our favourite streamers in 3D. The thought of meeting him in person, the same person whose voice had lived in my headphones for months, was electrifying and terrifying in equal measure. What if we hate each other in real life? I blurted. He barked out a laugh. Then we'll high-five for trying and go our separate ways, he said. But I don't think we will. Yeah, I said softly. Me neither. I told myself I was going for the experience, for the merch and the panels, and the chance to say I did something impulsive before 30. I booked a cheap hotel room with 2 beds, just to be safe, bought a train ticket, and tried not to think about what I was actually nervous about. Spoiler, it was him. The convention centre smelled like popcorn, plastic, and too many people who'd forgotten deodorant. Cosplayers swarmed the lobby in armour and wigs and improbable shoes. Bright banners hung from the ceiling, listing schedules and sponsors. The air buzzed with the kind of excited chaos that makes your brain hum like a beehive. I stood near the entrance, clutching my backpack straps, my phone in my sweaty hand. Riley just walked in near the big dragon statue. Me. Same, I'm by the left wing, wearing the Lag is Life hoodie. Riley, I see you. I looked up and saw him. He was taller than I'd imagined, though that might have been the boots. Dark hair, shorter on the sides, a little wavy on top. A denim jacket over a graphic tee for a game we both hated because irony. He was scanning the crowd, eyes crinkling at the corners. When his gaze landed on me, his whole face changed, lit up like someone had turned his brightness up to max. "Alex!" he called, weaving through a cluster of people in cardboard armour. "Riley," I said, my throat suddenly dry. And then he was in front of me, and the years of disembodied voice clicked into place with bone and skin and presence. He smelled faintly like coffee and something warm I couldn't name. "Hi," he said. "Hi," I echoed, ridiculously aware of my own hands. For a second, we just looked at each other. Then he laughed, shook his head, and pulled me into a hug. I froze for half a second, then hugged back. His arms around me felt strange and inevitable, like when a puzzle piece finally slides into place, after you've tried it every wrong way. "Sorry," he murmured near my ear. "Is this okay?" "Yeah," I said, my voice muffled against his shoulder. "Yeah, it's good." We pulled back, both grinning like idiots. "You're real," he said. "I was half convinced you were an AI built to carry me through raids." "That would explain my lack of social skills," I replied. We spent the day wandering the convention, moving together through crowds like we'd always done it. We demoed a game so buggy it crashed 3 times in 5 minutes. We bought overpriced snacks and shared them without thinking. When someone bumped into me hard enough to jostle my bag, his hand landed briefly at the small of my back, steadying me, and every nerve ending I had apparently woke up from a long nap. That night, we sat on the floor of our hotel room with takeout containers balanced on our knees, the TV murmuring some forgettable movie in the background. "I'm glad you came," he said, picking at a French fry. "I know this is out of your comfort zone." "What gave it away?" I asked. "The 3 separate lists I made of things we could do, or the fact that I wore my social anxiety is loading t-shirt yesterday." He smiled. "I know what it's like," he said, "to live more in your head than in your life." We fell into a comfortable quiet. Outside, traffic hummed and someone laughed in the hallway. Inside, the space between us on the carpet felt charged. I cleared my throat. "Can I tell you something kind of heavy?" I asked. He turned to face me fully, cross-legged, giving me his full attention. "Always," he said. I stared at my hands. "So, when you told me you were bi," I said, "it kind of broke my brain for a bit." He went very still. "In a bad way?" he asked carefully. "In a, oh no, am I also not straight way?" I said, forcing the words out. "I mean, I've only ever dated women, but I kept thinking about you. And then I was like, can I be bi if I've never touched a guy?" And the internet was like, "Yes, dummy." So now I'm just walking existential crisis, man. When I finally looked up, his expression was soft and stunned. "Alex," he said quietly, "you could have just said you had a crush on me. That was a lot of words." "Shut up," I muttered, face burning. "I'm trying to be vulnerable." He laughed, a breathless sound, and then his face sobered. "For the record," he said, "I have a crush on you too." My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I half expected it to break something. "You do?" "Dude," he said, "you log on and suddenly my day improves by like 30%. I've been trying not to be weird about it because I thought you were straight, and I didn't want to be that guy who makes it weird." We sat there grinning at each other like fools, the air humming. "So what do we do now?" I asked. He scooted a little closer, moving slowly enough that I could have stopped him at any point. "Can I, try something?" he asked. Every nerve in my body screamed yes. Yeah, I said, my voice coming out softer than I intended. He reached up and cupped my jaw, his palm warm against my skin. I watched his eyes flick to my mouth and back. If this sucks, we can blame the hotel lighting, he said, and then he leaned in. The kiss was soft, tentative, the opposite of every overproduced movie moment I'd ever seen. His lips were warm, slightly chapped. He smelled like cheap soap and French fries and something that felt like home. My brain tried to narrate, "You are kissing a man. This is happening." But it got drowned out by the simple, overwhelming rightness of it. There was no lightning bolt, no choir of angels, just a quiet, profound click inside my chest, like a drawer finally sliding all the way shut. When we pulled apart, we both laughed, a little dazed. "Well," he said, "that answers that question." "Which one?" I asked. "Whether this is just a bromance," he said, putting air quotes around the word. "Spoiler, it is not." Relief and fear crashed through me in equal measure. "I'm still figuring this out," I admitted. "I don't know what label fits yet. I don't know how to tell my family or my friends or anyone. I barely know how to say it out loud to myself, but I know I like you. A lot." "That's enough," he said. "We don't have to fast forward to the part where you're marching in a parade with a flag. We can just be here, see where it goes. No pressure." We ended up side by side on one of the beds, fully clothed, lying on top of the covers with the TV murmuring in the background. At some point my hand found his, fingers lacing together like it had been rehearsed. "This is so weird," I said, staring at the ceiling. "In a good way?" "Yeah," he agreed. "We met because some random dude invited us to a Discord server, and now we're holding hands in a hotel room like a fanfic." I snorted. "Don't ever say fanfic again while I'm this emotionally vulnerable." "Noted," he said, squeezing my hand. "Months later, when people ask how we met, we usually say, online, and let them imagine dating apps or mutual friends. It's easier than explaining the late-night raids and the memes and the moment when a username turned into a person I wanted to kiss in a room that smelled like industrial carpet cleaner. It took time. It took conversations where I stumbled over the word bisexual, like it had too many syllables. It took me admitting to my friends, voice shaking, that no, I wasn't joking, and yes, Riley was my boyfriend, and no, this didn't erase every relationship I'd had with women. But every time my phone lit up with his name, every time he said, "Hey, you got time for one game?" and it turned into 3 hours of talking about everything and nothing, it settled a little more into place. I'm still figuring myself out. That part doesn't magically end. Some days the label feels like a perfect fit. Other days it feels like a shirt I'm still breaking in. But I know this. My heart races in the exact same way when he logs on as it did the night we met, when his voice crackled through my crappy headset and he joked about his microphone role-playing as a toaster. And if anyone tells you online friends aren't real, I'll tell them this story. About a guy who thought he knew who he was, and a voice on Discord that asked, "Can you hear me?" and ended up changing the answer.